All right, welcome everybody to Remodelers on the Rise. Today I'm chatting with Bryan Sebring from Sebring Design Build. Bryan, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. There's a few reasons that Bryan and I are having this conversation today. One is I just like Bryan. That's a good reason. Yeah, you're welcome. Two, he's been harassing me a little bit. I say harassing, but he's just been giving me some feedback. I think it's funny, at least for me. Of course, all of us, we love feedback. Like, give me feedback. I want to improve. But then when people give you feedback, you're like, well, you don't like the way I'm doing it, right? We always, at least for me, I always get self-conscious of like, well, do you not like this? But now as I'm maturing, what I'm realizing is get the feedback, learn from it, and improve. So the feedback you gave me is, hey, why don't you go back to doing some intermingled, some longer podcast recordings? You're doing these quick ones. I like those longer ones. So we're going to go for 3, maybe 4 hours on this one, Bryan.
Cool. I'm here.
Yeah, he says I'm here. I got about 30 minutes, so we'll see. And then third, the reason we're talking is Bryan has been, he's just amazed me over the years of just being a giver to this industry of a lot that I've seen through this private Facebook group we have called Remodelers Community, of just being willing to invest time, invest his valuable time, and just sharing ideas. And what's lovely about that is there's nothing that I've seen that you're looking for in return. A lot of times when we share with others, it sharpens our thinking. It sharpens our ability to continue to tweak and improve. And I really respect you for that and appreciate what you're doing just for the industry. And even this is an example of that, of just sharing ideas. So thanks for being here, sir.
No problem. Yeah, I gain from every relationship that I have. I've met a ton of people through your Facebook group. So I mean, it's giving back, but it's also, I get to, even if it feels like I'm just giving. So I do get to.
Yeah. That BNI, I think BNI's motto is like givers gain. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. All right. So what we're going to do, instead of focusing on maybe one specific area, what we're going to do is just kind of go around the horn of your business. And we're going to touch on just several topics: marketing, the sales process, managing your team and your trade partners, financials, system software, production, and work-life balance. So just different areas around the business. And the thought here is to kind of dig into each topic and spend a few minutes in each and have you share your best tip or best thought or biggest thing that's had a positive impact at Sebring Design Build that you can share with other remodelers to help them improve. And we'll try to be disciplined and just do one in each category, but we might get a little crazy and do 2 or 3. As a fellow Ben Rector fan, if you guys don't know who Ben Rector is, that's another thing that Bryan and I share, is we're big Ben Rector fans. I've got a quote of a song over there. There's a song that Ben Rector talks about, and it says, "We might even get crazy when he's going out." Remember that song? Like, we might get crazy. Does anybody want appetizers? He's talking about going out to dinner with his friends in that song. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, he's playing on his quirkiness, and I do. Obviously, I love Ben Rector, and been to a couple of his concerts.
We might get crazy and even do 2 or 3 in each category is what I'm saying.
Okay, sounds good.
That was kind of an inside joke, probably just between the two of us, and maybe one other person is laughing right now, but everybody else is like, can you get on with the content? So we shall. So marketing. Nothing happens in the business until we generate a lead, generate an opportunity. So when you think about marketing for your business, this is an area that I know you put a lot of time, attention, effort into. What's one thing that kind of floats up the list that has really made an impact for you in that area?
For right now, we're doing seminars. I got some good advice from some other mastermind members of mine, and we've done 3 seminars. We've had 80 people show up and like 24 appointments set from those.
So 80 people over the 3 seminars.
Yes. And so it ends up being like 56 leads and 20, because there's husbands and wives, and 56 leads. And so 24 appointments. And, we've signed 6 what we call discovery agreements and 1 design agreement from that. And that's just been January and February. So it's been good. I mean, the key is getting people there, and we've kind of figured that. But yeah, it's been good. I really try to, when I teach people, I'm not promoting myself in that. People have really liked that. I'm just there to help them, the consumers. And that's been really good.
What's the title of the seminar?
It's kitchen design trends and how to help find a contractor.
Okay.
So, I mean, we talk about, I've kind of done a play on words with Marcus Simonis from the Prophet, and we teach them the 5 Ps. It's people, process, portfolio, and past clients, and price. So we go through, questions asked to learn about the people, learn about the process, learn about each one, and then we talk about how price is 1/5 of the decision, not 90% of the decision, like a lot of people do. So we have a handout, a scorecard. It's kind of full facing. Like, again, we talk about different levels of remodeling, the different ways who you can hire to do it. It's not just design trends. We also do current trends and future trends. People like that, obviously. So,
right. Because it's one thing. It's one thing to focus on, like, here's the process of remodeling, which also is important, because we all need to remember that a lot of the people that are coming to us to remodel their home, what's in their head is what they've seen on HGTV, right? And what they have as a budget is just kind of what they have in their head. And we need to educate them. A huge part of what we need to do through the marketing and sales process is to educate them. And another thing I would add to that is the definition of marketing that I use is getting someone who has a need to know, like, and trust you. And when you're up in front of people and just teaching and educating and not making it all about yourself, you're building know, like, and trust in a huge way compared to other marketing avenues.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that I've learned is that you need to think about a consumer, and what, if their wife says to their husband, okay, I want to do the kitchen, what's the first questions they're going to ask? They're going to say, well, how much is it going to cost and how long it's going to take? So you need to address that. We address that in there as well. Obviously, we can't give them exact price for theirs. I use I relate it to buying a SUV. When I tell them, when we start talking about price, I say, you can buy a Chevy Suburban, I think it's LS, for like 52 grand. You can buy the maxed out Chevy Suburban for like 80 grand. And then you can buy the Escalade, the Cadillac Escalade for like 105 grand. It's the same thing with pricing. When a homeowner comes to me and says, why is one contractor 50 grand and the other guy's 25 grand? I said, it's all about the details, about what they're including, the services they're providing, the materials that they've pulled for you. I mean, that's why it's so hard in the beginning steps to give estimates. We've stopped doing written estimates. we give verbal approximations, guesstimates, and then before, we do a 2-step design process now, and then we can get them a more narrowed down range until they make the selection. So, awesome. Yeah, that's been very good. We've got a lot of good feedback.
There, several things that come to mind. One is trying something new, right? This is something new. And a lot of times we go into analysis paralysis mode with marketing. Well, it might work, it might not. There's a lot of times until you just implement and execute. I mean, I'm guessing that the second one and the third one you've done are even better than the first one because you learned a ton from that first one. Second thing, you're building your database up, right? Our database of previous clients and prospects is one of our most valuable marketing assets. You're doing that. Third, I don't know if you're doing this, so maybe this is something that you can consider, is there are so many ways to repurpose the content that you're creating. Have you videotaped any of these?
We have. I'm not big on looking at myself. To be honest with you. So yeah. we have it. We've used it on social media the day of and stuff, but we have not put pieces or bits and pieces online or anything like that.
Yeah. So even that's interesting. I think on a recent podcast I mentioned that I do not like listening to myself, even just my voice, or especially the video aspect. It's like, do I really look like that? Or do I really say right after every single stinking sentence? Come on, Kyle. Or is my voice really that squeaky? But the fact that you're putting a ton of energy and effort into that to repurpose that content, there's just so many ways, whether it's social media, your website, so many different ways to be utilizing that video to continue to build know, like, and trust, and just leverage that time you're putting into it. So very cool. I'm glad that that's been successful for you.
Yeah, so far, again, it's funny now that I don't normally work on weekends. These are on Saturday mornings, and it makes the time feel like it's flying by because we have another seminar. We're doing another one. It's like it's been a month. And so yeah, it's been really good. And I have my designer speaking a portion of it. I mean, it's weird to see people stand in line to talk to you. It's a very different dynamic compared to going into people's house and everyone's guarded, because you're a typical contractor. So yeah, it's been good.
You're the expert. That's the key. That's the key on it.
Yes. Yeah. And again, I've heard, and some people give me feedback just that have been to other seminars, and they've said that the biggest thing with ours is that we didn't heavily sell them. We talk about our own process. We go through it step by step, so they can learn of one design builds process. And then at the end, we tell them, if you want to set up an appointment, it's a free consultation, and maybe you give them a little discount off the design if they decide to move into a design. So
awesome.
It's been good so far.
So that's one specific topic, and here I am being undisciplined on the marketing, but it's one of my favorite topics. So just secondly, I wanted just your quick thoughts on one. I think we need to do another podcast that just focuses on your website. If you go to, and I guess we could just point people to it, Sebring, Sebring designbuild.com. Brian's done an excellent job with his website, but wanted just to get your quick thoughts on the section of your website that has the pricing guide and a little bit of kind of the how, answering the how much a kitchen costs. How has that been beneficial to your marketing and your sales efforts?
It's funny because I get more people commenting on this one page on my website than the other. I mean, I probably get, on average, at least once a week, once every other week, where someone calls me up and asks if they can use it on their website. And I'm like, I don't own it. I probably saw it somewhere. Maybe it wasn't in my industry, or maybe it was I don't even remember when I first put it on, but I feel like there's no new things nowadays. There's just so small new things. So I always say,
as the good book in Ecclesiastes says, there's nothing new under the sun. And I would agree with that business side too. So it's been good. I mean, in our seminar, we talk about, after I go through numbers with them, I talk to them, how much a typical kitchen costs or a typical bathroom costs, different sizes. And I'll say, okay, now do your own research, especially if you don't believe me, right? Go to cost versus value, or go to my website, or, that sort of thing. And so it's been good. It gets people warmed up to the budget. And when we're talking to people on the phone, I'll say, do you have a budget? And say, I don't know. I said, well, let's go on my website. I can give you an idea. Let's talk about your project. Let me pull up pictures online, because usually, especially if it's been moved in the last 5 or 6 years, I can say, you're probably, instead of saying you're probably 50 to 80 grand, you're probably between a small and large project. Now you tell me the level you want to do it at, and there you go. And she goes, okay, yeah, we want to kind of do a medium. Most people do okay, you're probably between that range, and it's been very helpful. Also,
sure.
you're educating them, you're qualifying them, you're protecting your time. There's just so much that can be helpful with. So make sure you check out that page of the website if you're a remodeler listening to this. All right, so we'll put a cap in the marketing for now. Next little area as we go around the horn is the sales process. What's one tip, best thought item in that category for you?
And actually I have a salesperson now, and I'm debating in the next few months of hiring another salesperson now. So it's funny that you say, so it's a different mentality I've learned. Part of the idea of the pricing guide was to, if someone's not a good lead, get it, get that figured out so I don't go to the appointment. Now, our goal is to get her in front of more people. You know what I mean? So it's
almost because she has more flexibility in her schedule, and to get her some reps.
Well, yeah, and she's focusing on sales, right? She does sales and design for the first step of design, but and I still do some sales calls too. So we've got, she has more time to do it, where I'm a business owner and I have a lot of other things going on. So I was very trying to, so in the last 3 years, I've been reducing the amount of calls I went on, as far as visiting the houses.
Qualifying
now and now we're kind of expanding it a little bit. If you just look at the numbers, because we have 2 people doing it. So, what she's doing and what I'm doing is that we're selling a process, not a price, not ideas. We're selling, we're trying to build rapport when we're at the job. We're trying to listen. Listen before you start talking, if you know what I mean. I mean, we use Sandler training mostly, and it's just closing your mouth, listening, taking it all in, repeating it back to them so they know that they feel heard. That's been good. But yeah, we do a 2-step design process. So it's a small fee to do a preliminary design and a budget number. It's a loss. We don't make any money on it. We actually typically lose money on it, but at least get some buy-in from them. And then
there's little skin in the game.
Yep, and then they come into the showroom, and then we do a full design agreement that covers the cost of design at least.
Cool.
And,
so I'm hearing several things in there. One, kind of the big thing, which a lot of remodelers are on the fence with, or they've experimented with it a little bit in the past. This thought of hiring a salesperson, and in your case, the fact that she can do some design and some sales, that frankly, that kind of reduces the risk of her a little bit, or the investment in her, because she's able to do a few different things for you. And then a few things that just popped out at me that I just want to repeat, just for I was going to say edification, but that seems like a fancy word. For the edification of everybody listening to it is, you're selling a process. I think we overlook that a lot of times, where, the 5 powerful words of "this is how we work" is a very powerful way to differentiate yourself, to bring clarity to the homeowners. A confused homeowner doesn't buy. A homeowner that has good clarity on what they're buying and the step-by-step process that you're elegantly walking them through does buy and does move forward. The idea that we should be asking more questions and listening more than we're talking. If the prospect is not talking more than you, we're probably doing it wrong and not asking enough questions. I thought it was also interesting when you said, over the last few years, when it's just been you as a busy business owner, you've qualified leads a lot harder and heavier over the phone than you are now. That can ebb and flow. You've got a different setup now, so you're able to take a look and invest that time a little bit more in that initial appointment. So there's lots of learning lessons in there that I saw. Anything else you'd add?
Yeah, I mean, we went Chicagoland. The Chicagoland market is not great right now.
Really?
Everyone's talking about how amazing the economy is. I talked to many other remodelers in this area, and I think we're starting to see the signs of it in the jobs. I don't know if you saw the jobs report this morning that construction jobs are actually down. So, the thing for me is we saw last year that our leads decreased pretty significantly. And that's right when I hired the salesperson, and she went to some projects, but we're like, okay, we got to stop pre-qualifying so hard and get her in front of people. And so you ask a big thing about marketing and sales. My focus is getting more leads, and you doing the math on our closing percentages. And if we can increase the leads, we're going to increase the appointments, and we're going to increase the signed contracts. So, I mean, that's been a heavily focused at the end of the year. The seminars have helped. There's some other things I'm doing as well that I'm just trying to, get more people calling, because again, the down economy is coming. I'm already feeling it, to be honest with you. So, it's not tragic yet, but we were definitely feeling it. So I don't know I think Illinois, because of the tax situation and how the government's being run in Illinois, and the whole Trump changed the tax laws that probably hurt Illinois a little bit. Everyone's leaving Illinois. So I think that's a part of it too. But so I've been just trying to get as many leads in the door and people calling as possible. So now, especially now that we have a salesperson. So.
Gotcha. So a few things that I would kind of tack on. I think there's some nuggets there that you just shared. Is one, can we still agree, even if people are leaving Illinois, Chicago is still one of the best cities in the country?
Agreed. I mean, there's still jobs here. I mean,
yeah.
The problem is,
I'm just talking in general. It is a lovely city that you should visit and fund the economy so that Bryan can have more leads.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. There was one other thought that I wanted to piggyback off of that. What gets measured gets improved. One thing that people may have missed there that I would want to emphasize is you've got to be tracking your leads. No, you hold every dollar that you're investing and the time that you're investing in your marketing accountable. If you're not asking every single person that comes in, how did you find out about us, and getting specific and reporting on that, you need to fix that, because we need to know that information to continue to improve, to see what works, to double down and invest more in certain areas. So I took that away from a part of what you shared too. Very important.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not, again, for us, seems like it's about 20%. I mean, we get a lot of leads, a lot of bad leads because,
Hmm.
Yelp, I can't stop Yelp. I mean, we only go on like 5% of the Yelp leads and we get tons of those. So, it seems like it's about 20% appointment rate, going on 20% appointments compared to, we had 700 calls last year, 180 appointments. And then you just count how many projects you signed, and that'll get you your closing ratio. And so, okay, if I go up to 900 leads, and I go on 20% of those, and then how much, I'll get another 7 projects, and average job size is about this. And it's basically going through those numbers, at least starting there. And then you can say, maybe we need to improve our closing ratio. Maybe there's things you can improve, but at least start with the numbers that you
right. Things will pop out at you. It's going to be very interesting as you go through this year to see. The other key thing to look at is your closing percentage by lead source. It's going to be really interesting to see if your closing percentage for these seminar leads where you've built some know, like, and trust is considerably higher, or if it's similar. That's going to be an interesting number to look at. Cool.
Sure.
All right. So we hit on marketing, moved around to sales process. Let's move around to managing your team. Such a critical topic. And I think what I've seen over the last many years is as the economy has been good, there's been a lot of remodelers out there, a lot of my clients who have been building their team. They've been adding an office manager. They've been adding a production manager. They've been adding some additional lead carpenters. And with that, their ability and their need to improve their management skills has needed to improve. So this topic, I think, is a very important topic. What would be one thought that comes to your mind when how you are effectively managing your team?
Yeah, I mean, been in business 20 years, and now, the last few years I've been reading a lot of leadership books and just trying to, again, you become a coach rather than a player out in the field or doing whatever. You become a coach, because now I'm at a point now where I've got someone doing everything. I've got an estimator, I've got an admin, I've got marketing, I've got designers, salespeople. So now it's, how can I coach them? How can I help them improve and do their best job? And then right now I tend to fill in the gaps when we get busy, whether the estimator is busy, I need to do some estimating, whether I need to do sales help. It's more of a fill in the gaps part now. So yeah, I mean, this is always a challenge. You're still dealing with people. Human beings are emotional and they have struggles on their own outside of work, and try to be there for people, but then you got to get the work done too. So, I mean, this is not easy by any means. I'm still learning, to be honest with you.
So what would you say is something that has been effective, whether maybe it's a meeting rhythm that you're having with certain employees, or is there anything that you kind of learned from some of those books and some of the last few years as you've grown your team that seems to have made a big impact?
I mean, I use DISC, if you've heard of, for just learning personalities and understanding. When we've had conflict with a few people. I mean, I had a conflict with 2 staff people, and basically I went and looked at their discs, and I sat them down individually, and I kind of related to them, basically saying, okay, this is who you are. Let me tell me if this is correct. And I went through that, and they're like, yeah, that's exactly me. And then I talked to them about that. One of them was very similar to me, and I related him back to me. You're this way because of that, right? Yes, that's exactly. Oh my gosh, I feel heard. So it's just listening and trying. So I am not a believer in do unto others as they would do unto you. It's more, I would want to, treat others the way you want to be treated. I believe you should treat others the way they want to be treated. Too many people think that, oh, this is how I would want it, so I'm going to treat them. No, we're different people. And I need to learn who they are and what meets them, what reaches them, and try to reach them through that.
It's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for other people, I don't know how much, did you share the other person's disc or some of that insight with the others? Yeah. It's,
I tell them, this is why this person is this way. This is why they react in this way. And yeah, I do both ways. I mean, it's still sometimes a struggle, even though they know that, it's still like, well, they should stop acting that way, depending who they are, And so, but it's ultimately, we have to understand that if we're a family and we're going to have to deal with each other, I mean, I'm pretty loyal. I try not to hire and fire a lot of people. I want to have people here for a long time. Most of our people have been around for a while, but, and that's certainly an option, but I don't like that option. I try to learn how to deal with people and coach them and bring them up in the business. I think that's my goal.
Awesome. I'm actually going to be doing a webinar coming up with a guy named Tony Woodall, who's actually a good friend of one of my good friends. He's actually in the Chicago area. I might have to connect you guys as I get to know him better, but he specializes in just DISC assessment. And so if you're listening to this, DISC, if you search like DISC assessments online, if you've never done one before, take one for yourself. I don't think he describes it more as a personality, but just what motivates you, what demotivates you, and just it gives you great insight into who you are. It's eerie when you read through it. You're like, man, how do they know that that's what, how I act and whatnot. But to make it part of the hiring process, to certainly make it part of the managing process, it can help you tremendously in being a better manager. Awesome. All right. So moving on to another area around the horn. This is fun, isn't it, Bryan? Aren't you having fun?
I want, me, I'm always having fun, but, I would want to say something on the DISC. If you can, if there's one thing I tell people if they can learn about, it's this, because especially if you sell, if you can pick up on cues from the people that you're talking to about what type of person they are, you can certainly mirror and match that and reach that client the way they want to be reached. And you'll sell more to it. This is money in your pocket if you can learn that. And a lot of people go, oh, DISC personality. I like to wing it. I like to just, I want to know people I'll go with my gut, right? No, it's learning who a person is and then still going with your gut with that. Don't get me wrong, but there's certain ways to sell. I mean, if you're going with, if you're selling to a D, you need to sit across the table to them. They want that adversary role. They want that. If you have an S, you want to sit next to them at the table as a partner. And so there's a lot of different ways to doing things that if you learn DISC could help you.
Awesome. Very good.
I'll get my soapbox.
No, it's good. I'm glad you added that. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm positive.
All right. Moving on to the next one of financials. When you think of managing your financials, and maybe it's the most important report that you review, maybe it's something related to job costing, maybe it's just an overall message. Remodelers, when it comes to your numbers, here's some reminders. What comes to your mind for that?
At the beginner level, know them. I mean, I know I would bet right now that not 70% of the people listening, probably higher, don't really understand their numbers. They don't, I didn't. I was in business for 15 years and maybe knew it better than most, but I got involved in that mastermind, and the first thing, that they teach you is financials. So now I'm confident when a homeowner says, I got some guy that can do it 20% cheaper, I tell them good luck, because I know our numbers, right? Rather than going, well, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do it cheaper to get the job. Well, if you're going to lose money, you can't do it. It's black or white. That's what's great about numbers. There's no shade of gray.
Right. Once you understand them, your confidence goes up, your wherewithal of saying, I can't cut that because I need to cover my costs. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, once I finally started learning, I had a client on the phone. I said, your kitchen on the phone is going to be at least 80 to 85. And she said, someone said that they could do it for 70. And I just said to her, I go, do you like them? They're like, well, they're coming out tomorrow. And again, I'm like, well, what? I mean, if something changes, call me back, but I don't want to waste your time because we're $10,000 over what they said. Well, she called me back 2 weeks later. She's like, yeah, we'd like to have you come out. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about the budget. She goes, yeah, we're willing to spend more money. We really, we really want, we really like you. We've, the conversation was very bold and honest and kind, and we really liked that. And so we ended up doing the project. It was like 95. So, I mean, so in the end, if you're confident that you're not going to go do things that you're going to hurt your company. And then I think the second thing I have for that, since you said I could do two for each one, right?
You can do whatever you want.
Is I really suggest using WIP accounting. When we look at our numbers, if we are not backing out, I'll call it backing out because these are backing out the deposits that we make on jobs, you're going to get huge highs and lows, and you're not going to really know your revenue numbers, the actual work produced that month. So, I mean, every month we go through what we call cost to complete reporting with my project managers, how much it costs to finish the job. Are we on track with our margins? I mean, are we above or below? Are we getting slippage or grippage? And then we put it in a report and we add it to QuickBooks. So at the end, every month we know, how we did, how much we worked that month. And we didn't.
So I think it was interesting the way you started it you kind of said for beginners, here's what you need to focus on. And that second part, you could have easily said, once you have that locked in, here's the next step you go to. And I think some people listening to this might go, I've heard this WIP accounting. I've heard this before. Maybe I need to tackle that. if you don't understand your profit and loss statement crystal clear, if you don't understand that at the bottom of your profit and loss statement, where you see the net profit of $40,000, and then you look at your bank account and you say, where is that $40,000? And you don't understand that when you take owner draws or when you have loans, that it's coming out of the net profit and it's not in your profit and loss statement. If you don't understand that it's total sales minus cost of goods sold equals gross profit minus expenses equals net profit, those fundamentals, start there. The WIP accounting can come next. Start there.
Yes.
Start by understanding your job costing. Just flat out, this is what I was expecting to make in gross profit on this job. This is what my actual was. Start with the blocking and tackling. And then yes, as you get that down, then you can migrate over into the WIP. I sometimes see people get excited about this and they get a little bit of the cart before the horse. So I like the way that you set that up of saying, as a beginner, focus on this. And once you get that down, let's move on to some of these other things that are super helpful.
Yeah. I mean, there's been some, I don't know if you remember this, but I had a conversation with someone on the Facebook group about what is the difference between markup and margin. And he was trying to answer that, and it was wrong. And so we ended up getting on a phone call, and actually we're good friends now, and he's in that same mastermind that I'm part of. And we were learning, you think you know, but you may not know. And having other people critique your numbers and have them look at it really helped me in the process. And so now you're right. Now I feel really confident in them. Even though I may not be an accountant, I wanted to know. I want to know what I'm looking at. And
not wanting to know, need to know. You are running a business. And if you're going to depend on your accountant, if you're going to depend on your bookkeeper, yes, pay your CPA to file your taxes. You do not need to understand how to file your 1040 and this and that, but you cannot run an effective business and not understand your numbers. It's such a, I've been doing this for going on 12 years now out on my own, and something that I just see so clearly with remodelers who are in that top 10, 15, 20%, and remodelers who are in the bottom 50% for sure. The biggest indicator is understanding your numbers. When you have that locked in, boy, that's probably the biggest thing of impact. The person that you were talking about, was that Nick? Your buddy Nick?
No.
Oh, okay.
We talked about something else. I think he was reacting. It's another person.
Okay. So, I just wanted to hit on Nick for a second. So Nick was a client of mine. We did some coaching together, and I just love that story of, and I emphasize this just to remind remodelers to be doing this, is I think you guys originally met through that private Facebook group. Like, it was just like, oh, hey, why don't you just give me a call? Let's talk through this. And that's turned into a relationship where you guys it sounded like there's kind of like a weekly rhythm where you guys are staying in touch, and just friendship / camaraderie / people going through the same thing as you. I think so often remodelers, and this is why you mentioned that mastermind, Remodelers Advantage, whether it's, Victoria's group with Remodelers Advantage, Builder 20 clubs, the things I have going with Remodeler Circle, such a huge part of that is just realizing, oh, wait a minute, I'm not the only stinking one out here, going through the same stuff. And there's when you can develop relationships with other guys and gals that are going through the same thing, it can be so encouraging to help you improve your business. So that's why I was kind of picking on the Nick thing to see if it was him.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, once you join a group like that, because you have your local group, 10 guys that you know really well, and then you've got a ton of other groups in there. I visited like 6 different contractors last year. I went and traveled from Cleveland to Dallas to North Carolina, and you get to see the inner workings. I sat in meetings. I went to sales calls. I learned how other people do it so I can refine myself and be better. So, Nick and I, we text daily. And he actually came in for my first seminar because he's now going to do his. And he came in and just said he wanted to watch it, right? Because he wanted to feel comfortable doing it. And so, there's other people doing this. So don't sit
plus him and Chelsea have the new baby at home. So we probably wanted to get away for a night just so he could sleep.
Don't say that. Here's that. No. Don't say that.
Oh, okay. It's not true. Chelsea, if you're listening to this, it's not true.
He loves being around there. Yeah,
he loves. Yeah. All right. All right. Going around the horn, we got 2 more stops. One is I'm going to kind of combine these two of like systems, software, production. I'm going to make you just kind of pick one thing in there of what comes to mind when it.
I would say, software we use. I'll just do it quickly. We use Asana. ASANA for inter-office tasks and to-do lists. We use them in our meetings as well.
Okay.
to assign people those tasks. We use co-construct, which I'll be honest with you, nowadays you should minimally have a construction software because one person shop can get it pretty affordable. Co-construct or builder trend, we use co-construct. And then systems wise, I just created a flow chart of the buying journey for my staff where we went through every single step of our process, and then we have who does that process, in our company. And what we're going to do is we're going to attach a process, like a link. We're using Google Docs. We're going to attach a link to each individual icon. So if they don't know the process, they can click it, it'll open up and find the process. So we're starting to build that out, spent a lot of time on that. Use kind of a visual chart with icons. It's turned out really nice. So just trying to systematize everything. The more we can, the less likely that we're going to have an issue.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting where, what do clients truly value? Yes, of course, we need to do quality work. We need to make it, solid there. But like going back to what you said right at the top, we're selling a process. We're selling a process, and the more, every little tweak and improvement that you can make to that process is going to pay dividends for months and years ahead. On every, you get this part of the process down pat. It's a little work to get it locked in, but it is going to be valuable for every project thereafter. And it's hard as busy business owners and busy remodelers to work on the business and to work on systems. But every business owner that's listening to this, you've got to carve out time for it. Cool.
Agreed.
Good. Agreed. Amen, Brother Kyle, he says. All right.
Yeah.
All right. And then let's go to the final around the horn, which is frankly one of my favorite topics, which is just the work-life balance. You may think you're in business so that, you can make a lot of money and support your family. Certainly that's part of our, drive in business. But man, if we're building a business and it is just crippling life outside of work, if it is, affecting our family, our ability to be fathers or mothers, to be friends, to be able to volunteer. It's there's phases. There's phases, and as we grow a business where we're going to have to put in more time and energy and effort. But we've always got to be, for frankly, just our own health, the health of just being a well-rounded person. We've got to have an eye on this work-life balance side of things. So anything you would kind of encourage or share related to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd piggyback on that is that it's all the different stages of owning a remodeling business. I actually met with two remodelers community people in Vegas for KBiz last week or 2 weeks ago.
Who?
Bryan, I can get you their names. I don't remember them.
Bryan, what's his name?
Bryan Martin and gosh, you're putting me on the spot.
You have done absolutely perfect so far. I would argue probably one of my top interviews. And finally stumped you. You just ruined it.
Anyway,
I don't edit things either, so I'm not going to edit this crap out. It's all good.
At a group like that, there were, probably 30 to 40 remodelers that I talked to, and it tends to blend together. But both husband and wife teams, and one of them was at like $1 million revenue, and the other one was at like 750,000 revenue. And I walked away from that. I was talking to my wife about it, and they're awesome people. But I don't know if I felt so bad for them. And that sounds weird, but they're great people. They have a good business. It's not about that. It's more about, I know how hard of work it is from 750 to like 1 million, 1.2 million. It's so hard work because you can't hire people that you want because you don't have enough money. You're wearing all these different hats. I know they're probably working tons of hours, and they want the quality to be good. They're used to being, one of them was used to being on the job and controlling the quality. Now he has to let it go, and it's hard. I mean, I get all that. So, I guess from my perspective, work-life balance has gotten way better. I mean, I just like them, when I was at that stage, it was when my kids are a lot younger or not even born yet, to be honest with you. And I was working at, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, weekends, doing estimates in the evening. I get that. You got to push through that part. And what you do is you make little investments where you make it less money. I basically, right now I have an estimator, I have a salesperson, I have a project manager. All those things I've done in the past, I made a choice to pay someone else so I didn't have to do it. So that means paying myself less money. But in the end, it helped with growth and I make more money, right? It's that vision.
2 steps forward.
Yes, it's that vision. Remodelers Advantages talks about the stair steps, right? Is that you make a stair step up and it increases the cost, and then it flattens out as you increase your revenue, right? Then you make another, maybe it's a production manager and that cost, all these over a marketing person, and and so, I mean, all I'd say is that if it's important to you, a lot of people preach that work-life balance is important. It may cost you money. And that I'm not talking about the $1 million guys, right? Around that level or below. But when you get past 1.2, 1.3, you need to start investing in your team and making less money for a little while until you grow the revenue.
Gotcha. In order to achieve that work-life balance. I like where you took that. And what's one practical, something that I've kind of just watched from afar? I think you may have posted something about, Friday afternoons, you make sure that you pick up the kids from school. What's just even a practical thing that you've worked hard on related to work-life balance?
I mean, we don't years ago, we don't, including my salesperson, by the way, we only do appointments Monday through Friday morning, meaning we'll do Monday evening, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evening, but no weekends and no Friday afternoon, evening, unless they're going to hand us a check for something.
Mm-hmm.
Picking up a check is different, but beyond that, we don't work weekends except for these seminars that we're doing Saturdays. I really want work-life balance for my staff. So that's just really important to me. So Fridays, Fridays are catch-up days for me in the morning, and then normally I try to do a networking for lunch. I meet with other local Remodelers Advantage guys once a month. I've got other friends that I just try to connect with, and then I pick my kids up, at 3 from school. I take my kids to school a lot too, and just those little things. There's times in the car. I mean, there's ways you can do that on the weekends. I rarely go into the office. If I'm doing that, I'm on my laptop with them, next to them, that sort of thing.
So lots of good takeaways of that. But then one thing I would just kind of highlight back is, work-life balance for your team is also important. Our ability to retain and keep our employees and our team members happy is such a critical and valuable part of growing a business. So I just wanted to highlight that part of it certainly isn't all about us, but putting that thought process on of how can we've got work to do there, this is a job for them, but how can I provide some flexibility? How can I be able to provide some work-life balance for them so that they're in a happy place so that I have long-term employees to grow and strengthen my business? Yeah.
I mean, there's many ways to keep your employees happy. I pay my employees fair. If you can have a culture that allows them to go home and enjoy life, and when they're at home, it's a good culture there too. I mean, they'll be happy with that. Not everyone is just looking for the highest pay.
Yep.
That's a portion of everyone. Obviously, they want to be treated fairly with that, but it's more about go home. If they're working a Saturday morning, I'm like, go home early on Friday. You're not here to just keep working and working and working. It's important. It's living it. I live it. And I also expect them to do it too.
Awesome. Cool. So I think that's a good final word. Or if I were to say, Bryan, you got another final word you want to share before we end this?
Well, this probably goes out to people that are already doing this, but the biggest thing is that connect with other contractors. I tell people all the time, all the time pick up my phone, text me, call me. My email address is Bryan with a Y at Sebring Design Build, Bryan at Sebring Design Build. Email me. People have reached out to me. I'll call them back. I'm pretty, because I learned that every relationship I get better with. And so if, all the things I talked about, they reach out to me, because you know what, you never know, you could be growing into that big company in the next couple of years, and all you needed was 1 or 2 nuggets from having a friend in the industry, someone to challenge you. I tell people, if you want to be friends with me, expect me to challenge you and you to challenge me, and think differently. I'm not going to just appease and blow smoke up everyone's, what, but I'm going to be honest with what I think that, you should do or change. And I would want people to do that to me.
Awesome. All right, my friend. Well, I appreciate your time, and we will talk again soon.
Okay. Good to talk to you, Kyle.
Yep. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.